Welcome back to Brew Biker. In the last episode, we finalized the process of tearing down this WR250R. And in this episode, the fun begins. We start putting her back together. What you're going to see in this episode, we're going to add some silicone hoses. We're going to add some trick billet aluminum pieces to make the engine look cool. And we're going to do a complete install on a stainless steel FMF exhaust system. This will be the FMF Q4 exhaust with the stainless Mega Bomb header. So check this out. Now that I got the engine bay totally cleaned up, I'm going to start putting on some good parts. And I'm going to start out by installing some Pro Factory silicone hoses for the radiator. And this is the big one we just took off. It goes right back on just like the old one. And before I tighten that back hose clamp, I'll go ahead and put the clip up here to get the hose in the correct position. And remember, we have this metal clip and that goes around the big hose, and then the little hose tucks in to the little nook in that clip for it, and we'll want to align that right back up with that hole in the frame. Just like that. Now coming in from behind, same way we took it off, I'm going to reach my hand up in between the frame and the shock, and I should be able to hit that hose clamp bolt with a Phillips screwdriver and tighten that up. Now the bolt up here is a 4mm Allen. We'll put some blue Loctite on that before we put it on, just to help that not back out on us. There we go. You get a little blue Loctite on there and then just snug it up. Just snug it up. Now something else I'm going to do just to add a bit of bling on this side of the engine is we're going to pull out the stock oil fill plug. And we'll replace that with a blue anodized billet aluminum plug made by Tusk. And that really doesn't serve much of a purpose other than kind of start to give the engine more of a tricked out look. Now on the other side of the engine, we've got a couple more blue anodized trick pieces from Tusk. And that one pops right out. We'll just screw that off, and there's an O-ring there. And that O-ring is in great condition, so we'll just slip it on our new cover and reinstall it. And this will tighten with an Allen in the center. The Tusk one will, instead of the flat slot that the original one had. But you don't want to monkey grip these things. All you need to do is put some compression on that O-ring and it's tight enough. It really is way too tight. There we go. Back that one out. Once again, there's a little rubber grommet, and on this it stays on the case for me. And the new plug, again, this is tightened with an Allen, and once again you've got rubber seals, so they don't need to be cranked and torqued real hard. We just need enough to get a good compression on the seal. But that adds some nice bling to the side of that engine. Now we're going to install the exhaust system, and I'll start out by cleaning the exhaust port as well as I can with some brake cleaner or contact cleaner. And when we took off our original exhaust, there was a small copper exhaust gasket that goes in this exhaust port between the port and the header. And we saved that from the old exhaust, and we can reuse that as long as it's not in bad condition. So when you inspect this gasket, you're looking for any kind of cracks or problems with it. This one's in really good shape, so we'll reuse it. But before I install it, to make sure we get a really good exhaust seal, I like to use this Ultra Copper high temp silicone gasket maker by Permatex. I'm not really endorsing their freaking products, but it's good stuff. So I'll put a little on my finger and just kind of wipe it around that inside edge. Then we'll place the copper gasket over that. Once I've got the copper gasket in there, I'm going to go ahead and put another film of the silicone sealant around that again. Now the header's going to install with the original two nuts that came off of the original header. I'm not going to tighten this up just yet. I'm just going to go finger tight with them because we may need to move this up and down to align it with the tailpipe. On the other side of the bike, just below the battery, is the servo motor for that X-up valve that we took off. This has to come off, and we're going to go ahead and pull it off now so we can get the cables out of there, because the cables, otherwise the cables will be in the way a little bit for installing the exhaust pipe. So this is just held on with 2/8. So using an 8mm, go ahead and spin those two bolts out. They're right below the battery. Hang on to those bolts. And hang on to this bracket, because that's the lower mount for the battery, the strap that holds the battery in. At that point, that X-up servo should come out. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to disconnect the electrical connection. There's a little lever you have to push down to get that to loosen, and it'll pull right off. Then we can just pull this X-up servo valve out. Now remember this, because we're going to have to install a unit on here to cheat this bike out to make it think it has that servo valve so that it doesn't throw an alarm for us. We'll do that in a little bit. Now that I got that X-up servo motor out of here, I'm going to reinstall this little the little bracket that we took off to get it out, and I'm just going to go ahead and hook it to the bottom of the battery strap, flip it under, and put those two 8mm bolts back in. And that way we've still got our full attachment for our battery. It's tight. Got a good rubber strap here holding your battery in. That's all we need. Now we're going to install the exhaust pipe, and you remember I left my header bolts loose up here, so I got a little bit of play, and that's going to help a lot. I'm going to use some of that high temperature copper silicone sealant. I'm going to wipe a thin film right around the back end of the header here. This is a slip fit to the exhaust pipe. Now if you buy this exhaust, you'll notice that it comes with a like an adapter sleeve. That's only used if you're using the stock header. Now if you're using the FMF header like this one, you won't need that. I'm going to bring my exhaust in and guide it roughly where it needs to go, and the header will go inside. Okay, down a little. And here's why we really wanted to leave that loose, and right there we're on it. On the back bolt, we're going to use the factory bolt, but it had a washer on it. We're going to take that washer off. Now, lift the exhaust, and the bracket on the exhaust should be on the outside of the frame, and just start that bolt with a couple of turns. Just a couple turns to support it there. And now what we're going to do is try to line this hole up. We can move our header a little bit. Use a screwdriver if you need to try to line that hole. And we're putting a little blue Loctite on this bolt, and we'll try to get that to start. And you may need to put a little pressure on the back of the clip. The header bolts torque at 14 foot-pounds. Just kind of alternate on. Pull those in evenly. Good. We'll also torque our other bolts at 14 foot-pounds. And the exhaust system installation is complete. Now stick with me, because in the next episode we'll be picking right back up where we left off and continue with this WR250R build.